if you're thinking that your money in the bank is safe, no, history says that every money ever made, so all those digits you see in the bank account, in your bank account, people that are listening, your 401ks, your IRAs, history says, not my opinion, history states every account ever made by man went to zero. Good afternoon, everybody. Boy, what a day to be doing a podcast on finance, precious metals, and particularly silver. I've got Andrew Sorchini back of Beverly Hills Precious Metals. And as we speak, October 8th, silver is above $49. It went as high as $49 and I think 50 cents. And it literally it's 50 cents away from its from breaking $50. And so what a time to have Andrew here. I wanted to know, I'm going to ask him this very specific question is, tell me, Andrew, and welcome, Andrew, but tell me, Andrew, are your phones ringing off the hook right now?
They are. It's like literally like the office phone, my cell phone number, the texts are flying in, and it's just a wonderful thing because for so long, Bo, we had offered gold and silver to people. This is like, say, prior to 2010, where the market just went sideways. We didn't see the kind of moves like we're seeing right now. And now days where it's up more than $1 are becoming quite common.
Yeah, that's the thing. When do people buy? Like I'm joking, but and people buy when prices are going up.
Yeah.
And as much as they're buying right now, understand this cycle is biblical. This cycle is the one where the lid on silver, so the lid on silver has been $50 since forever. Actually, it's never in history ever been above $50. And we've said it before, in 1980, January, it topped out at $49 and change. Furthermore, what happened in the year 2011, $49 and change. So as of today, right now, it went higher than it has in 1980. And it's 20 or 30 cents away still from taking out, going higher than 2011. But one point I'm making is that in all the years of history of silver, it's never been this high. And so it's crazy and sad in a way that people, I'm happy they're buying, right? But we've been saying this is going to happen for 2-3 years now. Andrew and I said, you're going to see silver go up through 30, through 40. And when it takes out 40, it's going to accelerate because it went through 40 on Labor Day weekend, which was like, 5 weeks away? So in 5 weeks, it's gone almost $10 in 5 weeks. But it took 3 years to go from 20 to 30. Okay, Andrew, talk about that and what happens, how when it was stagnant, and now what's happening with price acceleration.
It's so funny. What we're seeing happen with silver reminds me of this Lionel Messi quote, where people are saying like, wow, you're an overnight success. Like, look at you, you're an icon right now. He goes, well, it took me 20 years to become an overnight success. And that's what's happened with silver. I mean, we've seen silver once it hit $30, it didn't look back. It shot straight to almost 50. And people are saying, geez, maybe I missed out. Maybe silver's a big move. It might be too late for me. And it's far from too late. We really don't know what to expect when silver breaks $50 an ounce. But I'll tell you that from talking with people every single day, and from looking at the invoices that are coming in and talking with our sales staff about the conversations that they're having with people think that silver is going to double from where it's at in a short period of time. This doesn't sound like wishful thinking. It sounds like silver breaking free and being allowed to have its true value. And it's really, really great to see.
Yes, that's the thing is it's breaking free and true price discovery, because that's the essence. They've suppressed silver for generations. Andrew, here's the chart on silver. We've shown this before. Hopefully, you can see this chart here. Look at this. It's forever silver. They've held the price of silver. This is the spike we had here in 1980. This is when I first got introduced to precious metals because I remember my father, when I was a little kid at the time, running to the local banks, and I still remember downtown big banks. There's massive lines to get into the bank to buy silver and gold. This is the spike right here because everybody's freaking about the economy. Then, same thing happened here in 2011. All I remember is on this ride vertical, it only took a few weeks, is every gold dealer, there was lines like you can't even imagine to get into the shop to try to get some silver and gold. And now look what's happening. Finally, silver's breaking through here. And look at this. It's when it goes through these 50-point markers, it's just going to get set free. And that's the point. When it breaks free, it leads to, and what Andrew described as true price discovery. Maybe you can expand upon, in the 80s, what happened when silver and gold spiked. They meet the money supply. So they're going towards true price discovery. If you can expand upon that, and then talk about the money supply today and why true price discovery is scary for the globalists because of what they did, and exciting for us because of what's coming.
Oh yeah. So back when I was a kid, I used to hop my back wall of where I lived. I used to cross the street and go into the local shopping mall, and I would play video games. And when the quarters ran out, I'd go into the coin shop and hang out. I started doing this when I was like 11 or 12 years old. So this is like 1981, 1982. I had just missed the big move in 1979 and 1980 when two guys known as the Hunt brothers decided that they wanted to corner the market on silver, and the government deemed it as illegal activity, but they did run it up to almost $50 an ounce. And it came crashing down right after they got in trouble. So we didn't see anything like that happen again until 2011. People might recall that was the worst part of the financial crisis. It sort of began in 2008. Banks were failing. I remember AIG stock was like under $1. Bank of America stock was like under $1. Banks were gobbling up other banks because they were going to go under, big name banks. So of course, gold and silver were going to go up quite a bit at that time. And that's when gold broke $1,900. Silver broke $49 for the second time ever. But what we're seeing now is very, very different, because going back to 1979 or even the early 1970s, I learned from Bo that there wasn't even $1 billion in actual currency out there. If you were to get all of the U.S. currency in the entire world, there wasn't $1 billion.
Andrew, as you're speaking, I just want to show you the viewers this. Look, I made this chart this week. Sorry to interrupt, but I want to, because this is what Andrew's talking about. It took 100 years to make the first billion, okay? So in the 70s, before Nixon took us off the gold standard, we only spoke about millions in the 70s. In the 80s, we go into billions, so that we go from 6 zeros to 9 zeros. In the 90s, we go into trillions. And now with derivative contracts, it's called derivative contracts, we're in 15 zeros. Okay, so wait a second. In the 70s and the 80s, we were only in the millions to a billion. And that's when silver was $49. So now we've gone from 6 to 9 zeros to 15 zeros. Talk about how money supply and silver prices, like, it doesn't make sense, Andrew.
No, not at all. And just to reference just some simple math, okay? In 2011, silver was just over $49. Let's just call it $49. At the same time, gold was over $1,900, and let's just call that $1,900 to make it easy. So if you double the price of 1 ounce of gold, okay, that's $3,800. You double the price of 1 ounce of silver at that time, that $49 multiplied by 2, that's $98. Then that means that pretty much any time that gold hits $3,800 for 1 ounce, that silver should be at $98 an ounce. Well, here we are at $4,050 for 1 ounce of gold, and we're still only at $49 an ounce for silver. So the idea or the prospect of silver doubling from where it's at now isn't completely outlandish. The biggest thing that stands out to me is the fact that the herd mentality hasn't started yet. So people that are watching this podcast that have been watching us talk about this for 3 or 4 years, that these people have actually been introduced to something that most of the world doesn't, or most of the United States doesn't know about. Only 2% of Americans really understand what gold and silver can do and are doing for people's portfolios. But when you start to see that Costco has 10-ounce silver bars and that they're selling out of 1-ounce gold bars, I've been there probably a dozen times since they started doing that. I've never seen them one time because they can't keep it in stock. But soon, when the lines are wrapped around all of the different brick and mortar shops that sell gold and silver, that's when you know that the herd has arrived. That's how we get to $100 an ounce silver. And it won't take much. All you need to do is just turn on your local news. And when they start talking about silver hitting an all-time high, then that's the beginning of us being there. And I'm talking about the herd mentality. That's when we sell out of the gold and silver supply, which I'm seeing that silver eagles are almost completely sold out now at the mint. They're becoming scarce. They're on delay right now for people that are buying monster boxes. This is what happens before the mint sells out. When the mint sells out of silver eagles, that's when all of the other silver products out there start to sell out. That's when the premiums go higher. And what that means to people out there that might not know is that when silver is $49 for 1 ounce, you might pay several dollars to obtain 1 ounce over that price, but it will be even more than that. And that's just what the market dictates. So better to get in ahead of the herd, but the herd is coming.
We've repeated and stated numerous times, when a bull market starts to break out on silver, the first metal to disappear is?
Yep, silver eagle.
Silver
Always.
eagles. Were we wrong? No, we were 100% right. What did Andrew just say? They're starting to get scarce right now. Okay, so that was on target. Now, Andrew, have you had anybody call you in the past year or two, whatever, saying, I wish I didn't buy silver, considering where it's at right now? We weren't giving advice. We're just simply saying, personally, the system's a fraud. They create money out of thin air. It's called money creation for a reason. It's created. In other words, for there to be a billion, like right now, the government shut down because they're arguing about money. That's created out of thin air. That's the funny part. They're arguing over money that's created out of thin air, and they're talking about trillions that never existed in the 80s. Think about that. The money never existed in the 80s, and yet the government's now shut down because they're arguing over where the trillions are going to go, and the money was only created out of thin air. It's a total sham. It's a total fraud. And why? The world's waking up. The world's waking up, and finally on this run, this is the run of all runs. This is where silver blows, takes out 50, and it goes on a journey to prices unheard of, unknown of actually is what's coming. And we're days away from this thing going down. And why is this important? Have I honestly been speaking about silver and gold? Because I want the people to know that the system is a fraud. It's a money creation system. I showed you the numbers, okay? 70s, 80s, 90s. We go from 6 zeros to 9 zeros to 12 zeros to 15 zeros. What? That's just money. That's just out of thin air. Okay. So, but yet you turn on your TV, you go to your bank accounts, you watch all the news about finance, and you think it's real. But what happens is everything has been deteriorating in price, because 100 ounces, Andrew, in the 80s at $50 would have bought you a car at $4,000, and you would have had $1,000 for gas. The same 100 ounces today, this is just some grasp to understand. The same 100 ounces today is $5,000 still, but you're only putting a deposit, you're putting 10% down on a $50,000 car. I just use that to get people to think a second. Why is the car 50,000? Is because the money creation, it went from 6, 9, 12 to 15 zeros. And they're still hiding most of the money. We don't even know how much money is created. So why I say this, because the money system, if they're creating out of thin air, it's a fraud, but yet they make you believe, hey, you log in, I got X amount of money in your bank account. Everybody looks at their 401ks or IRAs. They look how much money in their sitting in their checking account. Understand the money in the checking account, the FDIC, because the money creation, there's only enough for 1.3% of your money to be restored to you. So for every $100, you're going to get a $1.30 back based on the amount of money supply that they've created. So why I'm saying this, I'm just wanting the viewers to understand the finances of how they make money out of thin air. And if money's made out of thin air, but you believe it's money, you're just in a state of confusion because they've confused you to make you think it's money. But Andrew, when you went to school, was there a class on gold? Was there a class on silver, what ounces are and how they compare to gold, to the financial system? Did anybody ever teach you about gold and silver in school or college, or did you learn through the school of hard knocks?
I had to learn through the school of hard knocks. So just to continue the story of going to the shopping mall as an 11 and 12-year-old and then eventually a teenager, that place went on to hire me for my first job at 15 years old. I worked there for 9 years, and I'll never forget the first time I ever saw this happen. I saw a man come in with a big wad of cash, and he was trading that wad of cash for these old $20 gold pieces, like the St. Gaudens and the $20 gold Liberties. And I saw the owner of the shop just take just a giant stack of cash. It was the most I'd ever seen because I was still pretty young, and it was the mid '80s. And he left with this gold, and I waited until the guy left, and I went to the owner and I said, "Why would this guy trade cash for that gold? Isn't it better to have the cash?" He goes, No. He said that cash isn't really worth the paper that it's printed on. He wants that gold because he knows it's better than the cash. And then it started to really sink in at that point. And then once you're aware of that, then the more that you have your eyes open, you realize that there are more people that feel this way. And then eventually you start to feel that way. So I was late to do this recording with you because I was on a call with somebody that was paid $300,000 from a property that they had sold outside of the United States. And for 2 days, she's got the extra $300,000 sitting in her checking account. And if you've never had $300,000 or more sitting in your checking account, I'll just tell you that you start to you're not happy that it's there. It's not like this jubilant like feeling. You're worried about all the things that had happened to it while it sits there. And she's already got like 7 figures of gold and silver that she bought through my company and has it stored at her location and also in third-party storage. But she's like, I don't feel good about this. I'm going to get more gold and silver and put it into my storage account. And she said, she asked me a question that I think you might have asked earlier. She said, what are your clients that have been with you the longest? Like what are your conversations with them like? And I'll just tell you, Bo, you and we met at the Reawaken America tour. Yeah. And one of the greatest gifts for me personally of going to the Reawaken America tour is meeting people like yourself. But also, I got to meet clients of mine from like 15 and 20 years ago. People that I've talked on the phone, 20, 30, 40, 50 times, but I've never seen them face to face. And I didn't even know they were going to be there. A couple of them have flagged me down after coming off the stage, and they said, Andrew, I've been a client of yours since like 2010. And I go, well, what's your name? And they tell me the name, and I go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm meeting you face to face. And I go, so how do you feel about everything that we've done here? And he says, I wish I bought more. They always say, I wish I got more. And I sometimes will correct them. I go, so you wish that you converted more, right? Because you said bought more. You're not really buying anything. You're just converting one form of currency into another. So when you look at it that way, and you have 300,000 that you're not working with, that you're not doing anything with,
it's like going to Europe. Do the Europe example in finance, yeah.
So when you travel out of the country, you're going to Europe, great. You might take a couple $1,000s and convert it to euros. Now you're walking around with the equivalent of $2,000 US, but in euros. And when you're ready to leave Europe and maybe come back to the United States, then you convert it back into dollars. That's what gold and silver are meant to do as well. They are just another form of currency. You're not out there buying a new. You're not refurnishing your living room, something that you're not just going to never see the light of day on. This is an investment, but it's also currency. And sometimes we forget that. And I even say this person bought 300,000 worth of gold and silver. No, they converted US dollars that aren't really worth the paper that they're printed on for something that actually is worth what it's made out of. And like you always say, Bo, it's precious. They're precious metals. They're called that for a reason.
And then additionally, like Andrew said, like you might want to buy some euros because you're leaving the country, but all you've bought is another form of paper, another fiat. But the difference of doing it, you have, say, $100, you could put $100 in the euro and you have another currency, but it's a paper currency created by man. The difference here on silver or gold is you're putting it into God's money. But what I mean by that, it's literally been money for 4,000-5,000 years. Okay. So the euro is only maybe 50 years old or whatever, 30, I don't even know, whatever, but it's not 4,000. So there's no currency ever made by man that's in the thousands. Okay. The US dollar is the longest standing currency. It's like 113 from the Federal Reserve, 113 years or 112 years or now, but it's the longest standing. So it's 100. No currency ever makes it usually past 40 or 50 years. Okay. So all currencies, every one of them in time go to zero, zilch, nothing, nada, right? And that same, so history states specifically that the US Federal Reserve note in time, because it's so big and around the world, not overnight, you're not going to wake up, it's going to be at zero. In time, it will go to zero. But the first thing is going to get a big haircut. Okay. So it's going to be devalued. And then, so this is the whole part of the financial shift that's happening, okay? But there's history does not prove you right. If you're thinking that your money in the bank is safe, no, history says that every money ever made, so all those digits you see in the bank account, in your bank account, people that are listening, your 401ks, your IRAs, history says, not my opinion, history states every account ever made by man went to zero. So unfortunately, all the accounts ever made are going to go to zero, and the ones you're looking at in time will ultimately, history says, not me, history will go to zero. But if you took that $100 example and you put it into gold or silver, it is still the test of 5,000 years, and it's never gone to zero, okay? So that's the difference of when Andrew says converting. You're not buying something, you're converting into another form of money, into a form of currency. And when you go to school, they don't teach you any of this stuff. They don't teach you anything about how to make money, and they teach you how to make money, but it's a funny term because that's what the government does. They make money. And actually, they just forget the last word, out of thin air. If they at least be honest and say, they're not going to be honest, right? But yes, it's money creation, and they got to add the words out of thin air. If they would have at least said that during high school or college, people would be awake, but they've removed that part, because then people would question it. They just think they're just making money. You go to school, you go to school to get an education to go make money, and all you're making is a money that in time history says will go to zero. Think about that for a minute. So with that said, Andrew, tell me about, what are you hearing from people that call you? When they call you, are they right now buying more gold, more silver, and just any interesting conversation you may have had with some of your clients?
Yeah, I'll start with the latter. So back to the person that converted 300,000. You talked about treasury bonds, and before she called me, she reached out to her financial advisor and said, "Hey, I want to protect the 300,000 that I just got for this property. What should I be looking at?" He said one thing and one thing only: treasury bonds. And for people out there that might not fully understand what that is, the whole world has known for years that the US dollar is the strongest currency of any currency in the world, or it has been up until this point. All the currencies are fiat. As you just said, they're not worth the paper that they're printed on. But of all the fiat currency, ours is always considered to be the strongest. First, it was backed by gold, then it was backed by silver. Then it was backed by the petrodollar.
For nothing, and then 3 years later by the petrodollar, because Nixon took us off the gold standard. It took 2 or 3 years for the petrodollar contract. Yeah. And then that came to an end. As of now, there's no more petrodollar contract, is there? Didn't that end? That ended like a year ago. So now we're just pure fiat right now.
It was like 16 months ago that ended. It was June of last year. So now with BRICS nations now trying to de-dollarize the entire globe of the dollar, and Russia and China, the big two of BRICS, working together to make sure that happens, they're pushing for anything that's gold backed. And that's part of what's driving the gold and silver markets upward. At the same time, they're convincing the rest of the world to dump these treasury bonds. So you have these small countries like Costa Rica or even some of the other bigger European countries like Greece. These countries invest in US treasury bonds because they want to put their money in something where they know they're not going to lose. It's something that's guaranteed to make money and always has made money. Now they're convinced that that will not be the case, that it's going to take a haircut, like you just said, Bo, and eventually go down to zero. They're running from treasury bonds. And now, for the first time ever, or the first time in 30 years, the foreign banks now are holding more precious metals than treasury bonds on their balance sheets. And that's a big deal, because if they're not buying back these treasury bonds, and that means that United States, everything's coming back here, and it's coming back worth less than it was when it left here. So this is an old way of thinking. The reason why her financial advisor told her to go that route is because he can't offer physical gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Your financial advisor cannot offer you real gold and silver, only paper gold and silver. So that's really important. If you want to know what that difference is and really have it broken down for you, reach out to us on our website, because we can explain it to you. But just in short, the paper gold and silver can be sold to multiple owners for the exact same ounces. And you don't want to be part of something like that, because that sounds very much like Bernie Madoff, like something that's not real, something where you can get crushed if we have another financial crisis. If you can't hold it in your hand, then it's not real.
Right, and that's how we end up getting to the quadrillions, because of what's called derivative contracts. They basically create the money, and then they stick it into precious metals. They sell these contracts to various people for the same ounce they're selling. So they sell 1 ounce to numerous people. And so it just perpetuates itself. But ultimately, it's just, bottom line is, it's money creation out of thin air. And you're right. All they can offer you is treasury bonds. But when there's no buyers for the bonds, what do? They create more money out of thin air, and then the U.S. Babylon buys back its own bonds. So that's called money comes to roost. It comes back. All the bonds come back to America. So the only thing they can do is, the world doesn't want the bonds. They don't want them to collapse. So they just create more money. So we go into like 18 zeros. They create more money to buy back these bonds that were, in essence, that were first off created out of thin air. And now the only holder of the notes is the Federal Reserve and all their minion, all their buddies. But when this happens, that's the holy mackerel moment, because then the world, it's like, the saying is, Caesar's got no clothes. When that event happens, they're come to realize that the whole system was a fraud.
It's like Monopoly.
And when the whole system figures out it was a fraud, Andrew, what happens to the price of gold and silver?
It's going to blow vertical. It's
true price. Finish my words.
Oh yeah, true price realization. It's like what you just mentioned about this idea that the currencies that we're printing, especially here in the United States, that they have value. It's sort of like when you're playing the game of Monopoly. While you're in that game, okay, and you have like the biggest stacks of cash, that's real because you're in the game. When the game's over, it's not worth anything.
What a beautiful example. People, we're laughing because this is real. Like, this is not make-believe. We're literally speaking truths right now. We're giving you what's going on in the world. Why is silver and gold going up? Because they're going up because people are figuring it out. The whole system's based on a fraud. And when the fraud is revealed, you're going to see explosions like you can't even imagine. But they've used this money to control everything. So like all the rioting and the things you're seeing in the world, all the chaos, it's because they've had the unlimited funding to pay for it all. They make money out of thin air, then they pay for the rioting. Like, all of this is what's about to crumble. So I don't know what else to say, except everything I've learned over the years, We've not been wrong, Andrew. Right now, the only calls Andrew's getting is no one's upset. They're like, I wish I bought more. Those are the only calls Andrew's getting right now. And a whole bunch of, I want to buy some more right now, if I'm not mistaken. And so the calls you're getting, is that what you're getting, Andrew? And also, if people do want to reach out to you, how do they find you? And also talk about, because we've talked about the 401ks, the IRAs. Remember, those are just digital things you're seeing. And ultimately, when the system, when the truth comes to rest of what's these numbers are, understand all currencies, all history has said that everything in time, not tomorrow, okay, don't free, not tomorrow, but in time, this is a Ponzi scheme and it's going to go to zero in time. Every currency in history, everyone's gone to zero, including everything that people believe is money right now. So in closing, how do people reach out to you? Is it too late? What can they still get from you? And go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, it's definitely not too late. We believe gold and silver are going significantly higher. We've just given many reasons on this podcast as to why that can and will happen. So to give projections, I think that over time, it could be years, we could see silver go from where it's at now, $49 an ounce, to $100 an ounce. It might not even take that long. When when gold was approaching $3,000 an ounce, we were talking $3,000 gold for 1 ounce. Then right after that, we start talking $4,000 for 1 ounce of gold. We're past that now. Now it's time to look at 4,500 or even 5,000.
And they were projecting it for December.
Yeah, we're ahead of schedule. So it's certainly, we're heading in the right direction. It's straight up. The herd hasn't arrived yet. And it's a good time for people to reach out and protect their retirement accounts. The gold and silver are still available right now. And there's a good chance if you wait, 2-3 weeks, the Silver Eagles will be sold out at some point before the end of the year, because the government is going to start working on their 2026 coins that won't start delivering until maybe late December or early January. So this is inevitable, but that's the Silver Eagle selling out is a bellwether for everybody to go out and get as much silver as you can, as quickly as you can. And it happens that way every time. It used to sell out every year. It's not sold out for a couple of years. So it's going to happen this year. So I would watch out for that. Reach out to us because our response time is good, even on a day like today. Go on the website, schedule a consultation, say that Bo Polny sent you or Gold Forecast 2020, and just be as detailed as you can on the notes section. You can say things like, I'm a complete newbie. I've never invested in gold and silver before, and I think I'm ready to dip my toe in the water and give it a try. If you're somebody like Bo that's been investing for years and you really don't need the consultation, you know what you want, you just want to check the price, then put that in there. If you want to see if your 401k is one that's eligible to be rolled over into a precious metals IRA that holds real gold and silver and have it not be a taxable event, then put that in there. Or if you just have some questions and you're just really not sold on the idea that precious metals are for you, and you would like to speak with someone that could just answer those questions and at the same time not pressure you into making a decision, then we're the company for you. We're the only people out there that I know of that offer gold and silver that will give you the time to consult with your family, or even take a step back and pray about it. Sometimes you need to be sure. Again, to talk about the person that I just finished the $300,000 order with, ultimately, it was prayer that led her back to us. She said that the Lord spoke to me and told me that this was the right thing to do at this time. She explored all options. This wasn't the only option. She called her financial advisor. She spoke with her family. So for her, once the decision is made, she doesn't second guess herself, and she's already done good with us over the years. So I hope to hear from many people out there, because it is definitely not too late. Give us a chance to tell you why.
I also want to add this. We haven't seen the explosion yet, okay? So when silver goes through 50, finally the lid's taken off of it, gold's only starting. This is the starting point for gold at 4,000. Think about that. Let that sink in for a minute. Because when silver goes, gold goes with it. They're brother, sister. So they're both going to go up vertically in price. We're very close to the events going down. And of all the gold dealers I've met over the years, I'll say this for Andrew. He jumps on the podcast with me. He went to Reawaken America. He knows General Flynn, Eric Trump. He knows the Trumps. He shows up. He shows his face. There's nothing to hide. Why? Because he does things above board. And he delivers lightning fast, which is really cool because when the money leaves your account, you don't want to wait weeks to have things arrive. You want it to arrive 2-3 days later, not 2-3 months later or 2-3 weeks later. Okay, very important. But secondly, he shows his face. You know who he is. Why? Because he's a person of honesty, and that's critical because, man, I'm telling you, I've been in this thing for a long time. And there are so many people that, first off, you never went to school about understanding gold, so you don't know if you're getting a gold piece. They're going to say, oh, you got to have this gold piece because it's these old gold pieces all have a story. But if you listen to what Andrew and I are telling you, it's not about the story. It's about holding the physical ounces of silver. That's critically here important, and getting it in your hands. And also, a lot of people out there, they say they're brokers. They'll sell you something that's coming to their warehouse, but they don't have yet. And you don't know that. And that's why you end up waiting several weeks, or a long time ago, I had to wait a month or two for the stuff to arrive. And then for 2 months, you don't have the money and you don't have the precious metal. So I'm just telling you, it's so important to work with people you know and trust. And so I'll finish it on that note. Andrew, anything else you want to add before we wrap up? And thank you so much for being here.
It's the only thing to add would be to just thank everybody out there that has trusted us up to this point, because being a financial matter, this is something when you do make mistakes, they cost you, and they cost you hard-earned dollars, and that seems to hurt more than other things out there. So I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to serve all the clients that we have over the past few years, and to be able to look back with each and every one of them as they call in for various reasons and just say like, hey, congratulations, you've done a good thing here, but our work is far from done. So I hope to meet many more people, and we're here for you.
Amen. God bless you, your family, and everything you do over there up in Los Angeles. And thank you for everything you do. And thank you for being with me, on these podcasts over the years, because I know that through what we've done, Andrew, in my heart, and I'm sure in your heart too, you know that you have done the right thing for people. We have done the right thing. And all we know that we have steered people in the right direction. And today with silver, toying with $50 and gold over $4,000. All I know is that we, personally have been doing the correct thing. And I'm very blessed that people have listened to, followed our lead, basically, is what's gone on. So thank you so much, Andrew, for being here, and God bless you.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.